Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, Rangers. It's me, Jackie Kashian. Welcome to the Dork Forest. It's 2024. Let's do this. Here's the credits, of course. Mike Ruekberg sang that song at the beginning, and he wrote that song, and he sang it with Sarah Cohen, his wife, and he will sing the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. Also, Patrick Brady, still putting this together. Video, audio, all of it. He's amazing. So, and Vilmos doing JackieKashianStore.com. Squarespace is doing the regular Jackie Kashian page, and I'm thinking of moving the Dork Forest and dorkforest.com away from WordPress because it's driving me nuts. But those are the credits. But if you go to JackieKashian.com, you can get Dork Forest merch. You can get my stand-up merch. You can get my stand-up CDs and DVDs, which you'd have to have devices for those. You can also see videos and find out any number of things. I have another podcast called The Jackie and Laurie Show, but the Dork Forest is the flagship. 18th year. We're doing it, you guys. You can go to my Bandcamp or my YouTube for extra content. Please donate, is what I'm saying. It's 2024, and I think we've been in this long enough. Why don't you guys, everybody send me $100? That's what I'd like you to do. You can PayPal me. There's links all over the pages. You can Venmo me at Jackie Kashian. You can find me at a stand-up show and hand me a sweaty wad of 20s. Do something. But I love doing the show. I would love to make some money, is what I'd like to do. In other news, I'm sure there's more things that I should talk about, but I can't think of them. But let's listen to who's going to dork out about something, because that's my favorite part. Thanks for listening, you guys. You're all great. Let's get into the show. This will be great. Hi, I'm Jackie Kashian, and I'm in a hotel room without any hotel art behind me, so I've put an interesting pillow. The Dork Forest is what we're all listening to. We are all listening to, because I'm about to dork out with J.M. Diedrich, you guys, and it's J.M. Diedrich, DIEDRICH.net. And guess what she does? Is it a she? Is that a good pronoun? Yes. Are you going with a they? Are you going with anything? You're she.
I'll respond.
And you will respond. And she writes romance novels, you guys. So I may dork out hardcore on her, but she knows stuff about Victorian stuff too. Welcome. It's jmdiedrich.net if you want to see. The first book's out. There's 2 more in the series. It's called A Lady's Duke. And quite honestly, I'm very excited about it. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I'm psyched you're here. Yeah. Easy enough, right? So you write historical romance and you like history and a particular part of history for the writing
Victorian
of the romance.
History, yes.
Named after Queen Victoria, am I correct?
Yes.
Am I getting that right?
Very good. You know your stuff.
I know. I'm already in, you guys. There's top hats. Things are happening.
Yes.
What? Okay, so tell me, first of all, I guess, because I have tried to write romance novels a couple of times just because it would be fun.
Yes.
And yes, so, but you decided to do a historical romance novel, which is not just, you're not just setting it, like if I could set it in Wisconsin in the 1980s and, you'd fall in love with some guy who has a really good job at the factory, but it could happen. But that's not really the dream everybody has. You're like, oh my God, he's got a pension. And, but like,
I'd read
so
it,
Victoria,
Jackie. I would read it.
Who wouldn't? I'm now tempted to write it. So, but what brought you? Did you study Victorian? Did you study British history at school?
No. Oh my gosh, I wish. Heaven forbid I came across a professor. I would absolutely geek out at them. What did they put in their dentrifice? Oh my gosh. No. I started reading romance novels at a very young age. Like,
how young?
Inappropriately young. I was 13.
13? I read them at 13. Did you ever read Barbara Cartland?
No. Is this someone I should be reading?
Not at all. Not at all. She was Lady Diana's step grandmother, and she wrote religious romance novels. And
Oh.
they were not spicy at all. They got married, they kissed, last page, and even as a 13-year-old, I was like, well, this blows. But I read them all.
Because you had to.
Well, I think it was because they were all in the library, and I was like, and I was a bit of a completist as a child, so I was like, okay, fine. But then I read Harlequin romances at 13 too. What did you start with?
The very first romance novel I got from my 17-year-old sister. Think about this. She was 4 years older than I was. She gave me Jude Devereaux's A Knight in Shining Armor.
Oh, wait a minute. And you are a lot younger than I am.
Yes.
So you started reading romance novels when the word spicy wasn't a fucking word.
No.
It was hardcore, hello, tabby slot A, and tabby occasionally touch slot B. So, holy smokes, Jude Devereaux, that's hilarious. 13.
Okay. Yes, it was an experience. At 13,
you were an old soul. Yes.
Ooh, I had questions afterwards.
Did she answer them? Or did she just go,
oh, no.
I asked.
She answered them and then handed me the next one, kind of thing.
Oh, good for her. That's good. I asked my stepmother what oral sex was when I was about 15. And her and my sister just looked at each other and said, never you mind. I was raised in the 1800s. It wasn't okay. It was, I should have known. Someone should have told me.
Oh, but those are the people you're supposed to ask.
Right? Well, my sister was gay, which meant that she had a lot more information. She would have had all of the information, it turns out. And for what oral sex was with this model of humanity that was in front of her. And my stepmother was only about 10 years older than we were. And not true.
Oh,
probably, no, 15? She was probably 9 years younger than my dad. And my dad was 30 years older than me. So she would have been about 15 years older than me. Yeah. So she could have ponied up. She did show us some information from the encyclopedia about body parts, but she was not of help. Anyway, so you read Jude Devereaux, which I think she writes historical romances too, right?
Right. This one was the time traveling. They went back in time to do the historical. He came in modern times. It was tragic. It had everything. It was graphic. To my 13-year-old mind, it was, what? That's how the body works? Thank God she did it.
Yes.
If she hadn't given that to me, I wouldn't be here now. I swear to you. It's all her fault, and I do credit her for it.
You credit her for keeping you going, making you interested.
She was my drug dealer of choice. She just kept giving me the addiction that I had. She started it, and then she kept giving it to me. Thank God for her sisters.
Right. My sister, she was like, do you want to read The Chosen? And I was like, she made me join debate. I had to be on the student council. I also appreciate my sister. I finished my degree because of her. But I will say that when it came to sexy times, there was little or no discussion of anyone in our family, which of course is for the best with my father and my 4 brothers. But I could have used some information from the lady portion of our of the peoplehood. Okay, so Jude Devereaux, you're 13, and this isn't that long ago. You seem very young to me, but I'm 100. So, but whatever. So, did you start writing right away, or did you just consume like hell?
Oh, I consumed. Are you kidding me? I was going through puberty. Yes, I consumed everything I could get my hands on.
And was it mostly historical? So, Jude Devereaux, I don't think, like, I remember. Who's the one who writes like sort of Knickerbocker ones? The ones that are set in the United States of New York around the turn of the century.
Oh
Do you
gosh,
remember
I
those
don't know.
ones?
There
Did
are
you?
so many. There are so many
There's something for
great.
everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then there
Okay,
are
so who are
people who've
your
been writing
favorite?
for ages.
Yes, right. So certainly writing for ages for sure. And sometimes with historical romance novels, they're historical in quotes because the history is revisionist to some extent. Because but it is a lot of research, I think, that they do because a lot of the stuff that comes up, you're like, was that a law? That was a law. And who were your favorite, like Victorian wise? What years was Victoria? Do you remember? You would.
Victorian is more like, just to round it out, more like 1820 to like 1901. I think Victoria actually passed away in 1901, so right
Okay.
at the 20th century.
Right. Okay.
So it
So
covers a great deal of the 1800s.
sure, you're at like we're horse and carriage all the way to early, early
Cars.
sort of industrial. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
What do you tend to read earlier or later?
I will read Regency period, which is really before. So a lot of people
Right
think
before
about
that.
Bridgerton now. Bridgerton is set in Regency.
Yes, of a sort.
Julia Quinn.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I read all of the Julia Quinn books, and then all of a sudden Bridgerton came out, and I was like, what did she do? She made a TV show about a Julia Quinn novels? And then I tuned in, and it was during the heart of lockdown. And if
Yes.
you remember when the first season came out. And so
Mhm.
my husband, Andy Ashcraft, watched Bridgerton, and he was like, what the fuck is this? What is happening? Wait, why doesn't she know how sex works? And I was like, because, and this is true. I mean, I didn't know how oral sex worked, but I was told about tab A and slot A, and condoms and such, right? As a child, they were not. They, especially
No.
any kind of like middle class on up. I mean, the lower classes probably had, and people who lived out in the woods, they got to see, dogs and cattle and horses and whatnot. But yeah, he couldn't believe that women were not taught such a thing. And I was like, oh, there's legislation today. They would like that to happen right now. And so, yeah, Bridgerton is Regency-ish because of and let us explain. Now, here's the thing. I've invited you onto the program, and all I will do is talk because this is kind of my dorkdom as well. Because I read
Which is why
so
we
many
get
Bridgerton.
along.
Right, right. I cannot wait to read A Lady's Duke.
It's spicy. I hope you're ready for it. It is not. It is not slot A and slot B. Jackie,
interesting.
It's graphic.
All the slots are available.
Yes,
Okay.
all of them.
All of the orifices are available in A Lady's Duke by J.M. Diedrich, you guys. I just read 3 of them. They are sitting in the corner of this hotel room. I won't be taking them with me. I have probably 100 romance novels that are in various closets in my house, the reread ones. And some of them I reread because of the sex scenes. And some of them I reread because of they're funny. And some of them I reread because they make me cry. And I like a teary one. There's some teary action. So the Regency ones was because when remember King George, right?
Don't we all?
Well, King George was American Revolution King George, right? He was the one who supposedly went mad during the revolution when he lost the colonies. And then his son, also named George, I believe, was very large. This is what I know about Prince George, who was the regent. And he was a spendthrift and a bit of a glutton. And also a bit of a dandy. He liked to dress in fancy clothes. And then Beau Brummel, because the first decent Regency romance novels I read were Georgette Heyer. Did you ever read Georgette Heyer?
I have read so many Jackie, I
All
can't
of
keep
them.
them all straight anymore. I can't keep them
Okay.
straight. I've read
Georgette
so many
Heyer's-
books.
She was essentially one of the creators of romance novels, modern romance novels, historical, because she wrote in the 1920s she died in 1972, Georgette Heyer. And they are funny and they are romantic. They are not sexy at all, because she wrote from the 1920s to the 1970s. They are hilarious. They are essentially, do you ever see A Room with a View?
I saw some of it, yeah. I don't think I finished
E.M.
it.
Forster. It's E.M. Forster. It's essentially a romance movie. It's a romance novel movie, A Room with a View. It's adorable. And Georgette Heyer novels, she wrote essentially in the style of Jane Austen 100 years after Jane Austen, which means that she wrote the first historical romance novels. And
thank God.
Right. Thank God. She saved my life. And so when I was in junior, because when I went from Barbara Cartland, and Barbara Cartland wrote in the 50s and 60s and 70s and early 80s, I think. It was brutal. It was a lot. It was underlying Jesus-y, and not a Jesus who would ever get laid. It was a Jesus who was absolutely never going to get laid. And
doesn't sound like a romance novel.
Well, but have you ever read Mary Ballow?
Yes.
Yes. So Mary Ballow has a sort of a Jesus-y vibe to her. Never outspoken, never out loud. She just seems like a very nice lady who also would like to get some. And you're like, yes, Mary Ballow, I too am a pretty nice lady who also enjoys some sexy times. But she writes kind of sad ones. And there's usually someone in the book who is either developmentally disabled or physically has some sort of physical ailment of birth, or has been like their leg got cut off or some fucking thing. Like half of their face is a mess. And
she goes there, yes.
She totally goes there. So you read Jude Deveraux.
Yeah.
Who else were who are your favorite writers? I guess I have got to let you take this back, because otherwise I will fucking talk for the next 45 minutes.
I can't tell you how much of a relief it is to have somebody to geek out over this. I tried geeking about this kind of stuff with my husband, and he's like, "That's nice, dear." It's like, you don't understand. It's important. I don't know.
It is.
I mean,
important.
I guess I would say it's the classics that were out there that were available to me. I mean, at 13, 14, I really wasn't allowed to go buy those books. It was all what my sister was willing to just like sneak under the table to me. Like, here's your next hit, Jay. Thank you. Don't show mom.
Right. And don't cut me off. Don't cut me off. And they got them at the library, though. You never went to the library and took them out? Okay.
Again, mom knew all about that stuff. It's like, no.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So who did your sister really like that she turned you on to?
Oh my gosh. Again, I feel like the past 20 years, my brain has just exploded. There's so many romance novels that I have read. Trying to think. I mean, Mary Jo Putney was somebody that I feel like I've been reading.
Right. For decades. Right.
And they're great. They're still great. She's still putting them out and they're great.
Right. Yeah. So what makes one good for you going in? Like there's the hero, I'm actually working on I'm taking the reins back, Jam. Here's where it goes, is I'm working on a bit because one of my favorite genres of a Regency romance is a Christmas Regency romance where they're seasonal. And I usually forget about them until Christmas comes around. And then all of a sudden, there's sleigh rides and holly and some mistletoe, and some people are getting it on. So, but they're doing it old-timey fashion. They've all stuck in an inn while they're trying to get to their homes, or they're trying to get to some sort of Christmas party, and all of a sudden, they're all at an inn. And
there's only one bed.
There's only one bed, or there's no locks on the doors. And so I bought one, and it was, it's usually 3 different authors.
Yeah.
And then, and they're novellas, and super fun. And so I bought one at a brick and mortar romance novel store in Culver City, California, called The Ripped Bodice. And I was handed for half price. They were like, we have these old seasonal ones. And I was given one that was written in 1995. Now, romance novels, I have been reading them since the late 70s. In the 60s and 70s, the protagonist, our hero, was often a rapist. Disappointed, but then she falls in love with him and fixes him, and then he stops raping. Because rape is sexual, it's not violent. It turns out rape is actually violent, it's not sexual. But romance novels didn't give a shit. They were like, we got to get these people into bed, and she has to fix him somehow. So that's what women were writing back in the day. Yes. Around 90 to 95, there was a switch where the protagonist was no longer a rapist. And in this case, and I started reading it, and I was like, oh, it's one of these. The rapist was the guy's brother. So he's still protecting his brother, the rapist, who he's hoping to one day change. But she's going to fall in love with the brother who protected her. And he's like, no, don't look at him. Look at me. We're falling in love. You're not falling in love with this guy. And and now, of course, the consent is, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Is this okay? And it's very hard to masturbate to that, but I give it the old college try. And
it's true, though. It's completely, the industry has completely changed in what's acceptable and what they're pushing forward. You're 100% right.
Yeah. So the early Mary Putneys, the early Lisa Klepeses, the early, gosh, I can't. Yeah, the names are kind of hard to come up with in a push. But Stephanie Lawrence. Did you ever read any Stephanie Lawrence?
Yes.
She wrote a couple of series where there were like 6 cousins. And because that's the other thing, is that it's all a theme, right?
Yep.
You introduce a pile of young people, like 3 dudes who are 25 to 35 and 3 women who are 17 to 24. And then you can write a series about each of those people getting together, right? So what's your fave? What do you love about them? The Victorian ones.
The biggest thing that draws me to any kind of book, whether it's romance or not, is humor. So I love how you say, make me laugh. If you can make me laugh within the first chapter, I'm there. If you can make me laugh within the first page, I'm yours forever. Right. I love that humor, that wit, so you add in sexy time and you make me laugh. Sold. Done.
There you go. You will love Georgette Heyer. There's like something like a lady of convenience or something like that, or a lady like the names of them. We will talk. I will send you a list, and everybody,
you're gonna be my new dealer.
Yep. And by the way, Rangers, you can text me. I did this bit about romance novels many years ago, and Lorraine Newman, I think it was, fucking Lorraine Newman. I know her. Anyway, but Lorraine Newman tweeted at me, and she was like, I've never read a romance novel. What should I read?
All of them.
No, not all of them. You can't say that. That it is The Ripped Bodice. Here's the thing about The Ripped Bodice is that there are different genres, right? Like you like a Victorian, you like a historical romance.
Yes.
I don't like, and I like them in Britain. I don't like Scottish because they're usually the same. And and some people would say they're all the same, but they are not. They are not all the same. There are themes, and there are themes that I enjoy. So you want to tell me one Jack Reacher novel is not like another Jack Reacher novel? You can fuck yourself, because they are the same, and I enjoy Jack Reacher novels. So but yeah, and I like that theme. That theme is he's a good guy. There are bad guys. He punches him in the nose. This is something I enjoy. Romance novels. She's smarter. She's too smart for society.
Mm-hmm.
He appreciates smart, but just wants to get laid. And then he's like, I kind of like smart. And then they get it on, and then they get married at the end. And or they do something. But there are all kinds of genres. Like there are paranormal ones. Amanda Quick. Did you ever read those?
Yes.
Did you like those?
You're putting me on the spot here, Jackie.
Oh,
I mean,
no, but the thing is, they may not be entirely for. And also, she just died. She's never going to hear you. It's okay. But yeah, so like the paranormal ones are very specific. Like I don't like vampire ones. I'm not into supernaturally kind of ones where there's werewolves and pirates, and I don't even like pirate ones. So, what do you like?
Again, it really depends on the author. If you can make me laugh, it doesn't really matter what genre it is. You're talking about paranormal or fantasy. I've been reading a lot of, I'm going to get her name wrong. I'm going to butcher it. Oh my gosh, I'm so very sorry. Nalini Singh. She does.
Oh, wait. Is it SIGN? Wait, NG? Wait.
Something. Yeah. Something. I love her novels. She does Changeling Sigh. She does. I think they're
It's called Changeling
vampires.
Sigh?
Yes.
Oh, they're vampires?
She has another series. It's like angels and vampires, but it's this whole hierarchy, and there is humor. There is a lot of sexy time. I love it. I love having that, like, you're going to fall for me and I'm going to stab you. And it's like, yes, please have that. One of the things about my novels, I enjoy graphic sex and violence, but then I also enjoy the manners. I enjoy witty banter, the play.
Let there be a top hat. Yep. Let there be a nice frock. Who doesn't like a nice frock?
Exactly.
And then also somebody picking you. I had a friend of mine in real life tell me that she, in college. So, she was like, I had sex last night with a guy who literally picked me up and put me against the wall and fucked me. And she's like, I am not a small woman. And I cannot tell you how great it made me feel. And I was like, we may never talk again, but you, sir, were such a good time. And I of course said, did you use a condom? And because I like to be a buzzkill. In real life, I like to be a buzzkill so that people don't get the clap. But
responsible of you.
Right. And I, it's always funny because what have I just been rereading? I think it's a Lisa Kleypas series, Next Generation. Right. The Next Generation. I think it's called The Devil in Spring. By the way, the fact that a lady's Duke, if there were as many Dukes in England as there are books about Dukes, there would be no other people. It would just be, and everybody has 1,000 acres and hundreds of people that count on them. And some dude who's like, I don't know how to do it. And then some woman who's really good at Excel. And it's just a match made in heaven. So, but yes, Lisa Kleypas, A Devil in Spring, I think is about Pandora. A Devil in Disguise. That's what it was. Yes. Because A Devil in Winter is about,
there are so many.
There's devils, there's dukes, and there's
they're all fabulous.
They're all fabulous. So, but the vampire ones, that's got a classic story of sort of older man, younger woman kind of thing, because vampires are hundreds of years old. Mm-hmm. And there is like, part of it might be that we all would like a dude who knows what the hell is going on down there, because we were not taught to know what was going on down there. And you're like, you have a better perspective. You could actually see where everything is down there because you're down there. If you could take that and like sort of map it out and then just do it right, that'd be outstanding. And
it is the fantasy.
It's literally the fantasy, because everyone always says that you should tell men what to do when you're having sex. They're so excited, they're not always listening.
No.
And so you're like, no, you have to slow down. They're like, okay, slow, back to fast. And you're like, no, genuinely slow the fuck down. Have a hard on for minutes. It's all going to come together. We just have to,
I would read your romance novel, Jackie. I want to read this. Whatever you put. I'm ready for it. You need a reading buddy? I am there.
All right. If I can get it together. I was hired to write a parody of a romance novel for Audible.
Okay.
And I had never written a romance novel. I've never written a book. I had never written anything but short fiction, and not for 25 years. And they hired me to write a parody of a romance novel, but they wanted, because there's so much money at Audible in listening to romance novels, which I think is interesting. Have you ever listened to a romance novel?
I've tried. You really have to get the right narrator.
You got to get yes. Definitely.
I mean, you're either, again, like, just talk to me, read the bathroom tiles to me, or you're like, oh, no.
I can't listen to you. I can't listen to you read about, because sometimes, because that's the other thing about writing a book. Everything I've ever written, I've read out loud. So to write a romance novel and to read it out loud so that it, like, because I'm not good at grammar or punctuation. And the only way that I can get the grammar and punctuation right is if I read it out loud. And imagine reading a very steamy, sexy times romance novel out loud, where you're like, he took his tongue and put the flat edge of the thing against her clitoris, and then he paused, and you're like, is there a comma there? And because, there's a great deal of, like, I used to be ashamed of reading them.
Right.
Because back in the 70s, 60s, and then I read, first of all, I did a Dork Forest where Maria was sick of being on the Dork Forest, Maria Bamford. And she was like, I'll be on the Dork Forest if I can interview you about your dorkdoms. And then we talked about romance novels, and we talked about the preparation of roast chicken, because those are my two dorkdoms. And it made me write it sort of made me come out of the closet about it. And then I read a book written by a romance novel writer, and I liked this nonfiction history of romance novels better than her books. That doesn't mean I think that they were funny, but they weren't sexy enough for me. So I think I only read about 6 or 7 of them. But here's the thing about romance novels. You can read 6 or 7 of them. And
in a week, yeah.
And, yeah, right. You could just grind right through them. And I said grind. Anyway, but she wrote a thing called Bosoms and Heaving Bosoms or something like that. Whatever it was called. It's not just Heaving Bosoms or something was the name of it. And it was sort of the history. And I've talked about this before on the Dork Forest and other podcasts, is that romance novels used to only be sold in grocery stores, because when women didn't have jobs, they would get a grocery budget from their fellas, and they could buy books written for them by women and just sort of incorporate it into the budget, and they wouldn't be questioned about it. They couldn't be made fun about it. It was that. And, and they're still sold. Like, whenever I go into a grocery store, I always go into the magazine aisle and go, ooh, they have that new one. All right. And it turns out there's a lot of Earls too. Yes. So what's the log line of a Ladies Duke? What's the story? What's the story?
Oh gosh, you're just going to put me right on the spot, aren't you?
Well, yeah. Or just, and where's it set? Are they in London? Are they in the country? What's happening?
Yes and yes. They do both.
Okay.
It is very much the wallflower and the rake.
Excellent.
I go pretty heavy on the tropes, and I know I do.
No, and no reason not to. They're very successful.
Yes. Well, and it was my first novel, and I had it in the back of my head, write what you know, write what you know. And I'm like, I have read 1,000,000,002 of these novels. I'm just going to throw out the things that I like. So basically, I wrote the book that I wanted to read.
Right. Sort of culled from all the different ones that that's perfect. That's, yeah.
It starts off pretty typical. It's a woman. She wants her independence. She has a guardian who's basically like, I'm going to marry you off so that I can go live my life. And she's like,
sure.
Nah, I'm not going to do that. So she propositions her brother's best friend, who is a duke.
Sure.
In the middle of the night. So she goes to his
library.
Study.
Were they in a library?
In his study. There were still books.
There we go. Right. Still books. I always like it when there's books. See, I'm wearing my book nerd shirt.
Oh, that's perfect. And she propositions him like, I would like you to ruin me because I don't want to get married.
Oh, there you go.
How every classic romance starts. I would like you to ruin me.
Right.
And
it's also a pretty heavy male fantasy as well, where you're just like, oh, you don't need anything from me, but you would like me to put it in you. Excellent. So, yeah.
But best
friend, brother.
It's an unwritten rule. You're cute, you're spunky, you're saying very dirty things to me in the middle of the night, but loyalty.
Loyalty. Yeah, bros before hoes, man.
Yeah, pretty much. But she grows on him, of course. She's witty and she's dangerous. She likes to get into mischief and cross-dressing because every woman should. And
especially in 1820, sure. Yes. Put on a pair of pants.
Yes. And the thing is, like halfway through the book, I just kind of switch gears on you, and there's intrigue. There's an assassin that comes into play. We go all over.
That's always nice, right? Yes. Because just a regular romance. While I enjoy it,
yes, of course,
it's always nice when there's a bad guy. There's always nice when there's some other drama that we don't know about. With Mary Ballow, it's some sort of historical childhood drama that you don't know.
Yep.
And early Lisa Kleypas used to do sort of it was a vaguely rapey thing. She's been interviewed and talked about it. The joke I do I think it was on the Hero album, I can't remember, but it was my closer, and it was about a tantric sex move that Lisa Kleypas describes in one of her books that I wanted to do with my husband, but he had never read the book. So I just sort of took over the reins.
How did that go?
He's a good sport. So we were doing it, and then it was over. And then I said to him, Did you notice the thing I did there? And he was like, yes, I was there. And what was it? And I said, it might have been tantric sex. I read about it in a book. And he said, and then he made a very, very funny joke because it was, and then he made a Morse code joke that was very funny. That, right, because it was, with tantric sex, it's long strokes and short strokes. So he made my husband, Andy Ashcraft, made a long stroke, short stroke Morse code joke about SOS. And it made me laugh so hard that he often will, I think that I'm dirty, but then he will take and turn it into the smartest dirty joke in the world. So
you gotta love that.
You can't go wrong.
No.
Yeah. It's outstanding.
I totally understand. My husband's the same way. He'll whip out one of these jokes, and I'm like, honey, stop. The kids are around. I love it. I love that wit.
Oh, do you guys have kids?
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 boys.
Boys and all that boy energy, which is just boy energy. It's not, it doesn't have to be ADHD. They can figure it out themselves when they're 32. I have 4 brothers, so they
you understand.
I do. They all had a hollow leg when they turned about 11. And the food, my stepmother used to actually dole it out so that everybody at least got one plate of food. And then the four of them would race to see who could finish first so they could get more.
It's amazing.
And
my 6-year-old can now eat me.
Right. I'm sure, because he's got a lot of energy.
Yes. And they don't always understand. Mommy needs to have her reading time. Go play over there. I need this romance novel.
I read a novel that looked like a romance novel when I was about 13 or 14. And my stepmother, she saw the cover, and what it was a story about, my sister had given it to me, and it was about colonialism and Native American oppression. But it was fiction, historical fiction as well. And she had given it to me to read, and it was a picture of a very demurely dressed young woman and a Native American guy in like just wearing no shirt, right? Because right, a classic kind of. And so Nancy picked up the book and she was like, "Tell me that this isn't porn. What is this?" And I was like, "Oh no, it's pretty good. It's about colonialism." And she's like, "Never mind. Here you go." And and then she went back to reading her sexy. There were in the 70s. There were because now there are series, like you're writing a series.
Yeah.
J.M. Diedrich, by the way, .net. It'll be in the notes. A Lady's Duke, and the series it was sort of more like Winds of War and Roots. Roots started it, even though Roots was just one book. It was the John Jake series. It was a series of it ended up just being like sort of nighttime soap operas. Like they have them now too. So Bridgerton is a sort of a nighttime soap opera. Right. And the one that came on about the Rockefellers, or there was some Netflix series set during like the early 1900s about Wall Street monsters. No? Nothing? Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Let's talk about other
BBC. Sorry.
Okay. So, what other tropes do you enjoy? You're going to, if they were to cut, when she cuts this up, we're going to find out you got to talk for 12 minutes. Anyway, so.
I think it would be a shorter list to tell you what tropes I don't like.
Really?
I love so many of the tropes, and it could be the same tropes over and over and over, but if it's written well, I'll read it and I'll read it again. You talk about a reread pile. I have books downstairs in my basement and my library that are 20 years old. I will still read them. I love them.
Sure.
Even if they are not exactly correct now.
Right. Sort of if they don't hold up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there was one. It must have been a Mary Jo Putney era book. I wonder if you've read any of these Stephanie Lawrence books. It was they're the series that I suggested to somebody was the Stephanie, because they're kind of sexy, but they're not so graphic that it's going to pull you out of the book and go, "What the fuck am I reading?" And especially if you've never read one.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the Stephanie Lawrence. So anyway, talk about tropes while I look it up.
I mean, are you talking the tropes I'm not a big fan of, or the tropes I love? I'm actually not a big fan about the tropes with kids already in the mix. I feel like that's a lot of I don't know.
Do you mean like widows and like someone's a widow, or someone has adopted their sister's kids, or they have to figure out how to raise these orphans kind of thing?
I'm not a big fan of like the man having a bunch of kids from a previous marriage, only because
a task
usually
for this woman to.
Yes, it's usually she has to somehow fix their relationship because the father is indifferent. He's cold and the children are misbehaving to get his attention. That to me is not something I find interesting, probably because I have those two little boys who cause mischief and are cock blocking me at every bit whenever I want to do something with my husband. So to me, it's a little too real. And when I'm reading romance novels, I like the fact that it's still kind of an escapism for me when I'm reading that, even if it could be historically accurate. It's like, no, that won't happen now, so I can read it. So
right. And quite honestly, you have children to raise.
Yes.
You want to escape the raising of children.
Yes.
What do single people do when there are no children? When they're not going to bust in and bother your life?
That is the fantasy.
Okay. Right. So Stephanie Lawrence, who it looks like there's like 3 or 4 new ones that I have not read. And I thought I had read all of her books. So the Sinster series are the original like 6 cousins, and that's all Regency era because they all 6 of these cousins went to Waterloo and they lived, and then they took the town by storm, and then these are all of their kids and their like their neighbors' kids all meeting, and there is there's one that's kind of witchy. You might enjoy that.
I'm sure I will.
Yes, there's witches, and then there's part of them are also raising horses, thoroughbred horses that are amazing, that they're hiding. Other ones are spies. I like a spy one sometimes.
Yes.
Do you love a spy one?
Book 3, just book 3.
Book 3 of J.M. Diedrich's A Spy, A Lady's Duke. The first one, not a spy novel, but there is an assassin. And I don't like it when they get on a ship and go to like the West Indies. I don't mind. There's an author I like named is it Stacey Abrams? Or is that the politician who's also an editor? Yeah, I think whatever. But they're I like, you know what I like? I like when the author is Black and the characters are just human, just nebulous, described as dark hair, dark eyes. And then you're like, and then sexy times happens anyway because of humanity. And it doesn't matter. And I do judge a book by its cover. So I used to not buy the Harlequin romances when I was in junior high and high school, and because I read a lot of Harlequin romances because that's how I started, by stealing them from Kmart. And poor Kmart. They're out of business now, and it was partly my fault. Anyway, but I wouldn't buy the ones with the Black people on the cover because I was like, oh, they're not for me. And then it turns out it's institutionalized racism. And now it doesn't matter because everybody has parts, and they want to put them into other people's parts. And as Chad Daniels said, if any part of her body is in my body, that's still straight for me. Anyway, and he's like, and if any part of my body is in her body, it's still straight for me. And you're like, all right, you don't have to justify it. Just have a good time. But he, yeah. So that's where I'm at.
The industry has
with
really
tropes.
changed. Now it can be colorblind, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
How everything has modernized. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. There are things that I got away with in my series that 10 years ago I couldn't. And I love that. It's wonderful.
Did you ever read, and she's been on the podcast, Gail Carriger? It's spelled Carriger. Oh, wait, she pronounces it Carriger, and it's spelled Carriger. That's it. And she writes, they're sort of young adult, but they're romance, but they're also it's a world where vampires and wolf people, what are they called?
Werewolves?
Werewolves. Thank you very much. Werewolves and vampires and witches and I think I think there's even ghosts. The Parasol Protectorate is what it's called. And it is, you know what it is? It's steampunk. It's not historical.
Ooh,
okay. It's steampunky. And there's dirigibles and there's typewriters, everything you want out of there's like a steamship with a periscope. There's everything you've ever wanted out of both brass and umbrellas. And then there's also sexy times, and then there's also injustice that is being corrected. And there's very fancy dressed vampires, and there's very rough and tumble werewolves. And there's a lot of scrappy young women who know how to poison or throw darts. And I also enjoy like the Julia Quinn thing, the whistle down in Bridgerton. That in the books, it's not revealed until like book 6 or 9 who Whistledown is. But because it's a TV show, they got to do it. And the next series, and I don't know if they fit that when it's coming out, it's going to be not the third brother, not the second brother. They're not doing it in order of the books.
Oh, okay.
But don't you think it's kind of cool that they're taking a romance novel and making it into like Rhimes? She's a genius.
100%. I take it as
Anatomy.
It's an absolute win for the industry to have that out there, to have people just to have them exposed to that. Yes. Romance novels are fantastic, people.
Right. And it legitimizes it in a way that science fiction has been also legitimized in the last 20 years.
Right.
And so 20 years from now, it'll be okay to walk around. But here's what I don't like about romance novels right now is that they're phasing out mass market paperback size and going with trade paperback size. And so I can no longer judge by covers, and I don't appreciate it because I read by author, but I also I find new authors by cover.
Mm-hmm.
And the trade paperback size, they're not doing it Fabio, right? They're not doing Fabio covers. They're trying to pander to something else. And you're like, do you want my $8? Fucking, let me figure out let me just pick up a book here. I'm just trying. And even Barnes & Noble is putting romance novels in 2 different sections now.
What? I feel like the section's just gotten smaller.
Right. Well, they're putting the mass paperbacks over in one area, and they're putting the trade paperbacks in another area.
What's that about?
I don't know, but I don't like it because I can't find new authors then. Like, how would I ever find J.M. Diedrich if your first novel is going to be in a trade paperback? I don't know that I would get it.
That's why we're doing this now, Jackie, so that we can bond right here, right now.
Right here and right now. All right. So, so the Sinster series, you don't know if you've read that?
I'd have to look it up to be able to know at this point.
Well, it's what's about to happen is like the old ones. I wish I was kind of on Goodreads, even though I don't think I've I wish I could just go to Stephanie Lawrence on Amazon because that's where it just popped me to. I wish it was like it would go back to the first book, but Amazon doesn't want you to buy the first book. There we go. The Regencies. It is paperbacks and right. So 4 in Hand and The Dissolute Duke, a 2-in-1 collection. It's back when Stephanie Lawrence wrote Harlequins. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on. I could share it, but why bother? People, I'm telling you, go back and read all of Stephanie Lawrence stuff because it's super funny and it's very sweet. And the only the only downfall of a sinister man is a sinister wife, which sounds incredibly sexist, except for it isn't. All of the women are super empowered.
Well, and romance novels, they don't have to be spicy. They don't have to be sweet. You can find anything out there.
Right. They're all different. Like everything is available. It's sort of like comic books and stand-up comedy.
Yes.
And now in manga and anime and all of these genres that were super niche, they can be written by anyone and they can be written for anyone and about anything. So, right. If you want to go to space and get laid, you can do it. You can watch people in free fall getting their sex on. Like, one of the things about the Hugo Awards back in the day is that they used to one of an easy way to get nominated for a Hugo. Not an easy way. It's not ever easy, and it's always kind of stacked against different things. But if you had like a love story or a sex story, just think about like the people who won the Hugos back in the 40s and 50s. Robert Heinlein, that guy was the biggest bowl of keys dude in the world. He wanted to have sex with all the peoples, and he was like, everyone should do it. And then in the future, everyone's going to get to do it. And quite honestly, Nostradamus, Robert Heinlein. So, because everyone does get to do it. All right, you're pretty quiet.
I love that you're
to have you
about
on
this.
Sure.
You're going to have to send me a whole list when we're done with this.
Sure.
I need all of your books.
What are you reading right now? Is there anything next to you? What are you reading?
Go
grab some. Go grab some.
I had just read, oh my goodness, The Killer in the Crystal Palace by Deb Marlowe, I believe. She's another Dragonblade author with my same publisher, and it was
okay.
And again, when I opened it, I didn't realize there's no sex in it, which I guess I was a little disappointed. I'm going to be honest, and yet,
sure,
it was a mystery and there was adventure. She definitely was one of those, the modernized heroine. I don't need you. I can defend myself, and again,
and she falls in. Yeah,
you can find anything nowadays. The whole idea that it was technically totally PG. And it was still a lot of fun just to read.
Yeah.
But then
just,
go ahead.
What's it called?
The Killer in the Crystal Palace, I believe is what it's called. The Crystal Palace being where the Great Exhibition was.
Okay. And what year is it set?
1851. Don't quote me. I'm pretty sure it was 1851.
Middle 1800s. Okay.
Yes. So definitely smack dab, like right in the Victorian era where, from all over the empire, they would bring stuff and they would put it on display for people to see. And they would come to London, and it was, historically, that is exactly what it was. So
that's right. So it was a historical romance novel, but there was intrigue and there was also action.
Yes.
It was also an action book.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. It's there was somebody I read, I think it was called Mr. Perfect or Mr. Impossible. I forget who wrote those two. And Mr. Impossible was a one about a guy who's been banished to Egypt by his father. He's one of like 6 boys. And I think it was Regency era. And he runs into a woman who wants to find the Rosetta Stone, right? Wants to essentially, it's pre-Rosetta Stone. She's trying to study hieroglyphics, but she's a woman, so she's not allowed. And so her brother pretends to be the scientist, but he just kind of likes to hang out. And he likes Egyptian history. He just doesn't speak 9 languages. And, so he publishes her stuff. And Mr. Impossible is just a big lunk of a very nice man who happens to like a smart lady And you're like, who doesn't want that guy? Who doesn't want, giant sexy dude who he's not dumb, but he just admires the smartness that is also in you, right? Like he sees her as a person in addition to going, I would also like to be with you biblically. And, and Mr. Impossible is actually quite funny. And it has a couple of sex scenes in it, but it's very sweet. And that's my thing. I like it. I don't like it to be super, like when it gets super mean or super scary. I get scared. So congratulations, people who write scary books. You've already won. I can't do it.
Gotta love those thrillers.
Right. Well, it's been interesting talking at you for 50 minutes, J.M. Diedrich. I can't wait to do the bonus episode with Andy, where I tell him that I talked at you for about 50 minutes. But this has been a delight. I will be getting a Lady's Duke, by the way, and I can get it on Amazon right now?
Yes, you can, right now.
Well, right now. Don't think I won't just right now do it. And hopefully, because here's the thing. I'm in New York. I might be going up. Did you say is it at Barnes & Noble? Because I am going up to Upper West Side. And there's a Barnes & Noble up there.
You can get it online at Barnes & Noble. It's not in the stores right now.
Okay, well then I can only hope that it could be delivered on Sunday. Or I'll have to read it after I come back from Vegas. So, because I'm in Vegas all this week. And, but everyone should go to jmdietrich.net, DIEDRICH, and get a ladies Duke. And the other two are both coming out this year as well.
Both coming out, yes.
Holy smokes.
Yes.
Prolific. All three, the whole series will be out this year. And so get with it. And thank you so much for doing the show.
Thank you for having me on. And for talking at me. Thank you.
Sure. Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
Hiya, doll. How was the show?
Well, it was amazing. I talked to J.M. Diedrich, author of The Lady's Duke.
The Lady Duke.
Ladies, possessive.
Oh, the Lady's Duke.
The Lady's Duke. And she is a romance writer, a Victorian romance writer.
Okay.
And she wanted to talk about Victorian times and romance novels.
Okay.
And we didn't talk about any about that.
That's what she loves.
Yeah, right. Turns out she's a writer.
Uh-huh.
And kind of quiet. And I am bossy fucking Magoo.
Oh, no.
So I talked for about 50 minutes.
Uh-oh.
And she talked for about 8.
Oh, no.
And it was super fun for me. I hope it was fun for the listener. And I think she had a good time.
Okay.
But I'm
She got to know a lot about you and your love of romance novels.
It was remember when you interviewed me about my dorkdom?
Yep.
And when Maria interviewed me about my dorkdom? Those
right.
are 2 episodes. This is another one of those episodes almost, inadvertently.
Accidental interviewer.
I tried to backpedal a couple of times and it didn't work.
Oh.
So
and then,
she was great, though. She was very nice and super chatty after the show.
Oh,
so
okay.
She might have been shy. She might have just been...
Right. But so of those 8 minutes, was there something particularly special?
No.
Oh.
She just loved things and I loved things and we loved the back
so
and forth.
You just had a lovely conversation about the things that you love.
About romance
honestly,
novels.
That's that can be great.
It was great. It was I just hope everyone else liked it. And I hope that they buy J.M. Dietrich's book, The Lady's Duke. If they're interested.
Dukes. When
she said
when the lady
sexy.
puts up her dukes, she has to have a duke to put up.
I don't think you understand the premise. It was a good episode. I love you. I'm going to go away now. Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?